Hello there guys, it's Joey. So this video is going to be entitled Dark Phoenix, and if you have an X-Men reference for me, gimme. I love the X-Men cartoons from the 80s and 90s, so Dark Phoenix kind of has that implication for me. So if you got that reference, to you. Extra glitter, extra sparkles. Right, so I wanted to talk about the Dark Phoenix energy, which is part of a requested spell set, which we will show in a bit. But I wanted to talk a little bit first about the idea of working with Phoenix energy, and then what Dark Phoenix energy then is to me, in my mind's eye, in my visualization, in the process of creation that created these particular items for the requested energies. And I kind of was mulling around this question because I feel that sometimes with mythical animals such as the phoenix there is a level of oh well, you can't work with that because that's not something tangible and physical that you can see in the realm of the world. In terms of beasts and birds and fish that we can see and know about, because obviously the seas are greatly unexplored, it's not real enough because it's a mythical creature. And I always wonder about this. I'm thinking, okay, but we work in the abstract with deity. We work with the abstract with spirits, such as plant devas, crystal energies. We don't see them as life forms that we can touch and in a tangible way. I mean, we can touch the plant and we can touch the crystal, but the life force is a little bit separate, you know. The energy and the feeling out of the spiritual message with regards to plants and crystals and so on and so forth is considered to be a bit elevated from what we can physically see in front of us. So there are often archetypes used with regards to spirits and devas. So for example, one may be working with a crystal and get a very clear image of a particular animal or a particular person or a creature looking a particular way, and that is the archetype with which they engage on a meditational level. So mythical animals kind of fall into this category as far as I'm concerned, and working with archetypes is something that I think most, if not all, witches engage in on some level at some point. The way we even visualize different deity is going to be different depending on our personal experiences, our biases, our upbringing, our culture, and so on and so forth. And I think it's a slope, basically. It's a slippery slope to being like, oh well, you can't work with that, and oh, you can't work with this. Oh well, you can't believe in gods then. Oh, blah, 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 blah. No. So I think working with mythical animals and birds and creatures has a kind of poignancy for me in terms of the archetype that has travelled throughout history, throughout culture, across time, and throughout, you know, different people have interacted with these archetypes, particularly in literature and the telling of stories, be they oracular or written down, throughout time, and they have come to mean great things in terms of what they symbolize. So phoenix are rebirth and transformation, and most people will automatically assume that the same way they see red as being stop, because it's just so ingrained into our popular consciousness that it becomes a really powerful totem, it becomes a really powerful sigil, it becomes a really powerful symbol of transformation and rebirth. So that's how I feel about that little bit before going on to then infusing it sorry, I just realised that I thought about changing the name from Dark Phoenix to Shadow Phoenix. I'm in two minds, so it might be Shadow Phoenix by the end of the video. Right, so when requested to infuse Phoenix energy in terms of physical items and work with it in terms of a dark goddess, I was like, okay, how do we do this? Because we already have sets correlating to Phoenix energy on the store already, and they're pretty potent. And I was like, okay, so we need to ramp up Phoenix energies. And basically, the combination of dark goddess and Phoenix energies is going to irritate some people because most goddesses don't have a natural correlation with Phoenix lore. I'm on purpose not giving a set dark goddess for this particular set because I know that, oh well, it comes from a different law point, so you can't mix the energies. And when it's requested of me, when somebody has asked me to help aid them in their spiritual journey, I'm not interested in that kind of nonsense from outside sources, you know. Basically, I was having a look at how the two energies could be very similar, and this is some of my writings that I've written down. Utter destruction in the face of ultimate transformation, burning all that weak excess, all that hard-hearted self-destruction to ash, even if it hurts and burns to do so, abandoning the pretense and rejecting the fear. So this time of year kind of correlates to this really well, and a lot of people will start talking about, oh, it's becoming the dark half of the year, so we're going to do shadow work, we're going to look into rebirth. And I think what sometimes gets swept under the rug a little bit is that the shadow work, the transformation work, the rebirth work is hard as basically. It's so difficult. It's basically looking at everything you've told yourself to kind of create a coping mechanism and abandon that and look at the pain underneath and deal with it and deal with the things that make you weaker, deal with the things that make you a worse person, if you like, the things you don't like about yourself and the fears that you have, the difficulties that you go through, and where you've kind of become lax in your evolutionary process and your self-growth. And it can be a really difficult thing to look at oneself in terms of shadow work, because you don't want to tip over too far to the point where you give up on yourself and you are criticizing yourself and damaging yourself. And that's kind of been the message this week with regards to the Starry-Eyed Oracle, which was Night of the Wounded Heart. And it was talking about, you know, when being with certain individuals or in a relationship particularly is wounding and drains all the colour from an individual. And I think we can be guilty of doing that to ourselves. We can be guilty of draining all our own colour out, particularly when engaging with shadow work and going too far down the deep end of worrying about all the things that we do wrong without giving ourselves any credit. So we kind of have to find the balance with transformational energies, and we have to be careful with transformational energies, particularly when we couple them with dark goddess energies, because it's all very much about dealing with that murk, dealing with that fear, dealing with all the things that we have put in place to hold us back, blowing them apart, obliterating who we used to be, and rebuilding ourselves from the ashes. And it's not often a pleasant process. We can start to revel in it, we can realize we're getting stronger, we can build ourselves up and enjoy that process to a degree, but largely speaking, it's not a pleasant experience. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the items. The first thing was a smudge. Yum, 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 yum. And the process of creating these basically relied on the Phoenix energy that I've already intensively worked with, and then ramping it up. So this creates a temple of dark phoenix, shadow phoenix. It's very much fire in the night, it's the guiding light, it's the transformation, the burning oneself to embers and rebuilding oneself. It smells so good. I like it a lot. It's perhaps one of the less physically pretty ones, I don't know. Depends, I guess it kind of depends on your aesthetic. I kind of think it's pretty, but it smells good and creates the energetic temple. So the point behind the smudges, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, if you have, you know, sorry, but the smudges release scent and they create an energetic vibration. The idea of smudging is to elevate the energies around oneself, and taking in the scent and the energy of these things in combination weaves an energy matrix and sort of creates a temple within one's home. So there you go. And then we have the oil. And then we have the cauldron, and the cauldron is white for the original death colour, and then hopefully you can see a whole process of phoenix transformation across the cosmos in the dark night sky going on there. And last but not least are some votives. I think that one's probably going to be the easiest to show. Yeah, there we go. Right. So, working with Dark Goddess and then Dark Phoenix energy, should we engage with it? I think so. I think there comes a time in everybody's life when, following spiritual path, that we have to break down everything that we once were and abandon a lot of our mechanisms, and that can be sort of ego traps and self-centered processes and, you know, things that are holding us back, even if we have, you know, fiercely defended them in the past, thinking they were part of who we are, part of just our genetic makeup or our psychological makeup maybe, and realizing that they're not, that we have created those parts of ourselves for not the best reasons, and they hold us back. And it can be a slow process in some cases. I tend to think about fire energy as being quite quick in its process, but really the phoenix energy can be quite long lasting. It doesn't have to be an instantaneous transformation. I think a lot of us think of poof and it's changed, and I don't think that's real in terms of spiritual journey walking, particularly when you're working with the mythical energies of phoenix. I think it's more about a process, a catalyst, a beginning, and then the burning up and the slow burning of the creation of transformation and rebirth within one's life. These things sometimes do happen more quickly than perhaps we are comfortable with, but generally speaking, I think there is an element of the slow burn here as well with the dark phoenix energy, and being okay with that, being okay with the fact that it takes time to get into the better habits, whether it be on a physical level, a spiritual level, an emotional level. It takes relearning processes to really commit to change. And it's a lifetime achievement, so well worth doing. Okay, so that's it for the Dark Phoenix energy video. Many blessings.